Hello everyone. Today we are going to be doing a breakdown and analysis of Bo Burnham's song Problematic from his Inside Netflix special. This one actually comes as a specific request from Jessica, which she requested on my last video on sexting. If you don't know, I do have some previous videos on Welcome to the Internet, All Eyes on Me, Sexting, 30, and That Funny Feeling, I believe. So feel free to check those out if you're interested. This is not a reaction video. I've seen this many times before, but we're going to be doing a breakdown of the cinematography and also what I think the message or themes that Bo is trying to convey with this song are. But as you can probably see, we're going to actually start by analyzing the transition into Problematic. And because I can't screen record Netflix, we're just going to look at a couple screenshots of it. But Bo does a really good job, even though Inside, like his other comedy specials, is a series of just bits and songs and things that aren't always connected or related. They do help to create an overarching storyline, and he does transition between them really well. And I particularly like the way he transitions into Problematic. So if you'll recall, the song that comes just before this is Look Who's Inside Again, where he is talking about feeling like he's a kid again, back when he was stuck in his bedroom, which is reference back to how he started his career doing songs for YouTube from his bedroom as a teenager. And now he feels during COVID and stuff like he's just back there stuck in his room again. And it transitions from that into this shot of the projector, and then almost immediately into this shot of Bo's face, and we can tell that he's watching something on the projector, but we can't see what it is yet. And in film, a lot of times the audience takes its cues as to how it's supposed to feel or react to things based not necessarily on what's happening in the scene, but based on things like the lighting and the music that create the tone, but also on other people in the scene's reaction to what's happening. So, for example, if somebody trips and falls in a movie and people like snicker at them and point or are acting mean about it, you're probably supposed to feel sympathy for the person that fell and anger towards the people who are bullying them about it. But if somebody trips and falls and everyone else responds with like good-natured laughing and things like that, then it's probably more like a Three Stooges or a Funniest Home Videos thing, and it's okay, it's comedic, you're allowed to laugh at it, right? And so I think Bo's doing something similar here, where he shows us his reaction to what he's watching before he shows us what it is. And based on his face, although it's hard to tell if he's sad or angry or what exactly he's feeling, it's definitely negative, right? He's definitely having a negative response to whatever it is he's watching. And then in the very next shot, the music during this part too is also kind of like bass and ominous sounding, and then we transition to this shot and it makes that like bomb sort of noise, combined with like the blue lighting and the overall tone, is giving us very negative feelings. And we transition to this shot, and we see that what Bo's watching is his very first video that he posted on YouTube when he was just 16, called My Whole Family. And if you've been a Bo Burnham fan for a long time, you probably recognize this immediately. If not, you probably at least recognize that it's him. But for any of his longtime fans, if they saw this clip out of context, they would have very positive emotions about it, right? It would be maybe nostalgic for them, or they would, be like, oh, I like that song's funny, or whatever. They would have a very positive response. But that's not how Bo feels about it, right? And so it was important to him to show us how he feels about it ahead of time, so we get where he's coming from. And so in that way, this quick little 15-second clip is a perfect transition between Look Who's Inside Again, where he's talking about being a kid stuck in his room, to showing us a clip of him as a kid stuck in his room, to Problematic, where he talks about his feelings about the work that he created when he was a kid stuck in his room, right? So it's that perfect little transition. but that I just really appreciate how he does that. So I just wanted to point that out and talk about that before we dive into the song itself, which we're going to do right now. So as you can probably see, we're going to be using the Netty Edits version again. So it's, 4 copies of the video tiled so that we can avoid copyright issues, but we should be able to see everything that we need to see still. So let's dive in.
Massachusetts, overwhelmingly white. I went to church on Sundays, ain't a student in town, and spent my free time watching Family Guy. I started doing comedy when I was just a sheltered kid. I wrote offensive shit, and I said it. Father, please forgive me, for I did not realize what I did. What that I lived to regret it.
So pretty early on in the song, Bo makes a reference to growing up going to church, and that's a necessary foundation for what's to come, because then pretty quickly afterwards here he makes a biblical reference. For those of you who don't know, he's quoting Jesus here, but he's kind of flipping the quote on its head a little bit. So in the original quote, Jesus, when he's on the cross, says a prayer. He says, Father, please forgive them, the people who are crucifying him, for they do not realize what they do. And in this sense, Bo is saying, Father, forgive me, for I didn't realize what I did. Or that I'd live to regret it, which on the surface could just mean that he didn't think that he'd ever regret it. Other people have said maybe to them that line means more like, I didn't know that I'd live long enough to regret it, kind of referencing again some of his mental health struggles and things that he talks about quite a bit in Inside. So either interpretation I think could be valid, but either way you kind of get already that there's a sort of like confessional tone going on here that will continue throughout. So lighting is really, really important in this song. A lot of times directors use lighting to kind of cue us into something about a character. So for example, if someone's face is like in shadow, that might mean either that they're being deceptive, right? They're not telling the truth, or maybe they're in the dark about something, like there's something that they don't know, some secret or something that maybe we the audience know that they aren't aware of, something like that. If they're in the light, especially if it's dark all around and then like there's a specific part that's being highlighted, especially if it's their face, usually that's something like, oh, they're being honest, or they're being trustworthy, or they're something is being exposed or learned, something's dawning on them, they're figuring out something or realizing something. And so in this song, there's a lot of Bo kind of stepping out of the dark into the light, kind of symbolizing him kind of coming clean, right? Kind of exposing his past sins, and again, that confession sort of aspect to the song. So we see that in this shot here, and you'll see it multiple times coming up as well. This shot is also a foreshadowing, the first of 2 foreshadowings of another shot he's got coming up later. And I like how he's able to manipulate the projector or the spotlight, I'm not sure which it is, probably the spotlight, to make it so it's just that ribbon of light. It's pretty cool. I love all the close-up shots too. Like, it's just really beautiful camera work.
Since I started singing this song, I was totally wrong when I said it. Father, please forgive me, for I did not realize
Yeah, so this shot also same sort of thing. His face is kind of in the dark, but that ribbon of light in the arms again kind of foreshadows the shot that's coming up. Um, yeah.
For I did not realize what I did, but then I lived to regret it. Times are changing and I'm getting old. Are you gonna hold me accountable? My penny's empty and I'm getting cold. Isn't anybody gonna hold me accountable?
So we've seen several shots now of him working out in different ways, right? Whether it's on the bike or punching the weird ball thing on the top of his head. So clearly, this video is done in the style of an old like '80s workout video. And he's even, it's hard to tell because of the four tiles, but he has manipulated the aspect ratio here a little bit. It does have a black bar on the top and the bottom. This is something he did. He made it an iPhone aspect ratio in FaceTime with my mom. He makes it a square Instagram aspect ratio in White Woman's Instagram. And here, if I recall from my days as a 90s baby, I think back when we had like VHS tapes and like older TVs, there was kind of that black bar at the top and the bottom. It's definitely purposeful because it's not there in the rest of the special. As to why he decided to make this one an 80s style workout video, I think first of all it's kind of fun. Like the 80s synth and stuff works really well with just kind of the vibe of Inside, some of the other music in Inside. I think on a practical level it shows again a snapshot of what life was like during the pandemic. All the gyms and stuff were closed, so people were finding any way they could to work out in their house, whether that was signing up for Peloton or finding maybe digging out some old kickboxing VHSs from the past in their basement, or getting on YouTube. And so I think he's again showing what pandemic style workouts looked like. But on a metaphorical, like thematic level, I think that this song is talking about him sort of improving his image metaphorically, right? Improving his reputation or how people see him. And so it makes sense that in the video then he is improving his image physically, right? By showing us clips of him working out and working on his image physically. So I think that's the connection between the two as to why he chose this particular style for this particular song.
I'm problematic. He's a problem. I just remembered that Aladdin costume's in my mother's attic. He's a problem. Go home and burn it. Or not burn it. He's burning it.
I don't know why, but I think it's really interesting the way he has the red light, like the light behind him and the red light on his face during this shot, especially as he's talking about burning it and like, oh, should I do that or is that not good? And it's kind of like he's still trying to figure out like, who am I? What am I supposed to be in this instance? What's the right thing to do? And I don't know. It's just a very interesting shot to me with the lighting.
And I've been totally awful. My closet is chock full of stuff that is vaguely shitty.
And then this is probably the best example of the shot I was talking about with the lighting being meaningful. He literally falls onto his knees out of the darkness into the light, into this square of light, and he's being lit from above. He's facing, like the camera angle's down on him, so it's like he's looking upwards and kind of offering a prayer, right? But also kind of an apology to the viewers, the world, whoever, right? But it's definitely in the style of like a confessional prayer, and the lighting in this one really helps create that feel.
All of it was perfectly lawful, just not very thoughtful at all, and just really shitty. I've been totally awful. My closet is chock full of stuff that is vaguely shitty. All of it was perfectly lawful, just not very thoughtful at all, and just really, and I'm really fucking sorry.
And then there's the money shot, right? We've been foreshadowing this a couple times with the ribbon on the wall of light and him, with his arms against it and things like that. And now we come to it. And again, it's very cool how he manipulated the light to be just the cross shape. And I guess the message being that it's kind of like he's implying that he's being crucified for his past work, and yet he's the one who put himself there, right? It's not Father forgive them for they don't know what they're doing. It's Father forgive me for I didn't know what I did, right? And he's kind of, it's like self-flagellation a little bit, like yeah, he's doing it to himself, but the analogy there is abundantly clear. And again, just that little light in amidst all the darkness is just a great visual. And like many songs in Inside, it doesn't just end there, but the music continues into a behind the scenes shot where he shows us, like, look, here's the fog machine that I used on the spot that I had used to create that effect, right? Because that the song we just watched is pretty high production quality compared to some of the other songs, especially it's like the polar opposite of the Look Who's Inside Again song that has like no bells or whistles or lighting or anything. It's all just like natural, him sitting on the floor with his keyboard. And so it's like, yeah, the video you would just watch was pretty good, right? Like all the way I created the texture with the fog machine and gave it that kind of gritty look. And so it's almost like a magician who does a magic trick and then shows us how he made it. And he's kind of setting up for 30, I think, in this song, I think is the one that it goes into next. But again, I appreciate all the little behind the scene shots and the way that he uses them, again, to transition between bits. And I think Inside is an example of, I think it's called like a poemenon. There's some term for it that's like a piece of art that tells the story of its own creation, and yeah, these behind the scenes shots give us a good insight into that, and obviously the outtakes gave us way more insight into that process. As far as what I think he's trying to communicate with this song, I think there's a couple different levels to it. First of all, I do think it is a legitimate statement, and not necessarily apology or confession, but a legitimate statement of how he feels about his past work. He's talked in plenty of interviews about how he disavows a lot of the things that he did when he was younger, and he's quite embarrassed by some of it. And again, we saw him talking. Actually, in the outtakes, we saw kind of almost more of that transition shot I showed you of him talking about how I was a kid in my bedroom and it felt so strange and I wish I could go back and change it, but I know that that's the only reason I'm where I am today, and all we saw that whole segment. But clearly he realized for the final edit that that was not necessary. Everything he said in that little bit of the outtakes, he communicated to us just through the visuals with no dialogue necessary in the transition clip that we talked about at the beginning. So that's fascinating, actually. I didn't think about that until just now. But so he is legitimately repentant a little bit over some of his work in the past. He has also said before, though, that he's not really afraid of cancel culture, that he thinks it's better to err on the side of, being concerned about not offending or hurting people than on the side of not caring who you hurt or offend. And he's quite critical of some comedians or comedy in general, kind of, using comedy as an excuse for saying and doing things that are just not okay. And, so people have said they've watched his really old stuff and been like, how has Bo not been canceled yet? And my response is always, you can't cancel Bo Burnham because he constantly just cancels himself. Sorry, right away, right? From the bit from Make Happy. He just apologizes immediately and moves on. And I think that's a big theme of his movie Eighth Grade, too. And he's talked a lot about how he hopes that we can kind of be a little more forgiving, I guess, as a society, how everyone from his generation afterwards is going to have stupid stuff on the internet that they did or said as a kid that could potentially haunt them for the rest of their lives. And so It's that balance between holding people accountable, but also allowing them to learn and grow from their mistakes and not hold something against them forever, right? That if they're really willing to learn from it and grow, that we give people those second chances and let them do that, and give young people especially permission to fail out loud and to, put themselves out there and take risks and not be so afraid of the criticism and backlash that they don't do something in the first place, right? Because he would never have gotten where he was if he hadn't had the freedom to do that when he was younger, right? So I think that's another layer to it. I do also think he is being critical, though, of people who, especially like celebrities, who get canceled and then make more like performative apologies that are not sincere just to like save their own reputation or image. And I think we see that especially in this line. Let's see if I can find it. Yeah, it's like right here. Yeah, if I'm gonna catch up, first I gotta fess up, implying that the only reason I'm fessing up is so that I can, benefit from it personally and get back in like society's good graces or whatever. So I think that's an aspect of it too. And finally, I think part of it is just to the fact that you are never going to make everybody happy, right? No matter what you do, there's always going to be someone who has a problem with you. He seemed pretty genuine in the first verse, but by the second verse, he was already having to apologize and say, I've done a lot of self-reflecting since I started singing this song, and I was using my childhood as an excuse, and that's not okay. And so, yeah, just that constant process of learning and growing and bettering yourself, and again, just muddling your way through it, I guess, as best you can, and just realizing that you're never going to be able to please everybody, and the only thing that you can do is, if you realize you made a mistake, fess up for it and move on and try to do better tomorrow. So I don't know. That's my interpretation, at least. If you have other thoughts or feelings about it, I would love to hear them. If you have other suggestions, again, thank you again to Jessica for recommending this one. If you have other suggestions of ones you'd like to see me do, let me know. Again, I've already done Welcome to the Internet, All Eyes on Me, Sexting, 30, and That Funny Feeling, and also one on parallel shots that Bo uses in Inside. So feel free to check those out if you'd like. Otherwise, I hope you guys enjoyed this. I hope you have a great rest of your day. And as always, thank you for watching.